My name is Elise. I'm 34 and I guess I'm somewhere between heartbroken and relieved. I haven't really figured it out yet. It's like I'm holding the ashes of something I loved, trying to decide if I should mourn it or thank the fire for finally going out. I keep replaying the moment in my head when I told Jason, my fiancé, I think I deserve someone who sees me. I didn't mean it as a threat. I didn't mean it to hurt him. I said it because it was true. I said it because, after losing 100 pounds, I also lost the woman who tolerated silence where there should have been desire. And I thought that maybe, just maybe, he'd fight for me. Instead, he canceled the wedding 2 days later. I didn't expect that. God, I didn't expect that. When Jason and I first got together, I felt lucky. I was 28, heavier than, quiet about my needs. He was the first man who didn't make me feel like I had to shrink myself emotionally or physically. He made me laugh. He touched me like he meant it. We had sex in the kitchen once, just because we couldn't make it to the bedroom. I remember how I couldn't stop smiling afterward. My body, in all its softness, felt wanted. But something shifted. Not all at once. That's the worst part, it happened slowly, like a faucet that starts dripping until one day the sink floods and you're standing there barefoot and shocked, wondering how you didn't notice the water rising. At first, I blamed it on stress. Jason was working long hours. I was in grad school. We were tired. That's normal, right? But then the kisses started feeling absent. His lips touched mine, sure, but he never stayed there. No lingering. No hunger. Just routine. And our cuddles, what used to be our favorite part of Sunday mornings, turned stiff. He'd hold me like he was checking a box, and I started pulling away first just to feel like I had control over something. I remember the last time we had sex before the weight loss started. He didn't look at me, not really. He turned off the light before I'd even gotten into bed. His hands went through the motions, and I just lay there. Not because I didn't want him, but because I didn't want to feel more rejection trying to initiate it myself. That night, when he rolled over afterward without a word, I cried into my pillow while he slept. So I started walking every day, just to clear my head, just to feel something. 1 mile turned into 3. Then I stopped drinking soda. Then fast food. Then I got a personal trainer. Not to become beautiful for anyone, but to find myself again. I needed to feel like I had agency over something. My body seemed like a good place to start. And as the weight dropped, the silence between us grew louder. Strangers started complimenting me. Friends noticed. I smiled more. But Jason, he became colder. Like my evolution threatened him. I don't know. Maybe it did. Then came the moment I can't forget. We were at this dinner with his parents. I wore a black dress that fit like it had been sewn just for me. I felt powerful for the first time in years. His mother said I looked radiant. Jason didn't say a word. On the drive home, I reached over to hold his hand. He let me, but his fingers didn't wrap around mine. They just stayed limp, like a dead thing. That's when I knew. Something had broken. Maybe it had been breaking for years. But in that small, quiet moment, I felt it. The absence. And this time, I couldn't unfeel it. I realized I hadn't been asking for too much. I had just been asking the wrong person. Jason's a physical therapist. I used to think it was beautiful, the way he used his hands to help people heal. He'd talk about patience with a kind of reverence, explaining how tightness in the body could hold old pain, how trauma lived in the muscles. He once said, touch can change everything when it's done with care. I believed him. I used to wish he'd treat me like one of his patients, gentle, curious, focused. But somewhere along the way, his hands stopped exploring and started assuming. Like they knew me already. Like there was nothing new to discover. One night about a month before he canceled the wedding, I was folding laundry in our apartment. The dryer was humming. My mind was somewhere else, thinking about how my favorite jeans finally fit again, and how he hadn't said a word about it. I was pairing socks when he came up behind me and wrapped his arms around my waist. His lips brushed the back of my neck. "You smell good," he murmured, sliding his hands under my shirt. "Come to bed." It was supposed to be sexy. And maybe it would have been, months ago. But it felt like being pulled into something I hadn't been invited to want. I stiffened without meaning to. He noticed. "What's wrong?" he asked, voice flat. "Nothing," I said too quickly. "Just tired." He sighed. Not loudly, but enough to let me know I'd failed some invisible test. He stepped back, and I turned around, folding the last pair of socks as if that moment hadn't just fractured something. Jason was a man who touched first and asked questions later. He thought grabbing my waist or brushing his fingers along my thigh was proof of affection. But what I needed, what I had always needed, was to be seen. To be asked how I was feeling. To be talked to like I was more than just familiar flesh. When we were first together, he used to talk to me. Really talk. He'd ask me about the books I was reading. He'd kiss the inside of my wrist and say things like, "What are you dreaming about lately?" I don't know when it stopped. Maybe when we moved in together. Maybe when I stopped initiating affection out of fear, he'd pull away again. Later that night, I climbed into bed and lay beside him, facing the wall. He put a hand on my hip like he always did. But it felt like a placeholder, like he was trying to keep the routine alive, not the connection. "You okay?" he asked, sleep already thick in his voice. "I don't know," I whispered. I thought maybe he'd turn toward me, press me for more. But he didn't say anything. The next day, I tried to explain. We were driving to the store, and I worked up the courage to say it out loud. "Do you ever feel like we're going through the motions?" He glanced at me, squinting. "What do you mean?" "I don't know. I mean, we're planning a wedding, but we haven't really talked about us. Not in a real way. Not in months." He shifted in his seat. "Elise, planning a wedding is talking about us." "No, it's talking about logistics. Flowers and cake and venues. It's not talking about why we're even doing it. It's not talking about the fact that I feel more alone with you than I did before we got engaged." His jaw clenched. "You're being dramatic." That stung more than I expected. It silenced me. We rode the rest of the way in silence, me watching the houses pass by, wondering if other couples were better at this. If other men sat beside women they once adored and made them feel like strangers. That weekend, we were supposed to go suit shopping for him. Instead, he suggested we stay in. "Let's reset," he said. "Watch a movie, order takeout. No stress." I agreed, thinking maybe it meant he was trying. Maybe he'd finally see what I meant. He ordered Thai food. I picked the movie, something slow and sad, something that mirrored the ache in my chest. We curled up on the couch, his arm around me. At some point, he kissed my temple and whispered, "You're beautiful, you know that?" I turned toward him, feeling hopeful. "Thank you," I said. "I just wish I felt that when you look at me." He blinked. "What do you mean?" "I just said it." "I know. But I need more than that. I need to feel it, not just hear it after a glass of wine and some pad thai." He pulled back a little. "I don't get it, Elise. You're the one who changed. You lost all this weight, and now it's like nothing I do is enough for you." "That's not true." "It feels like it. Before, you used to be grateful when I touched you. Now it's like you flinch." I swallowed. "Because it doesn't feel connected anymore. You touch me, but you don't reach me." He stared at me like I was speaking another language. "I think you're overthinking everything." Maybe I was. Or maybe I'd finally started thinking clearly for the first time in years. That night, we slept in the same bed, our backs turned to each other. My engagement ring felt heavy on my finger, like it didn't quite belong anymore. I wanted to believe we were just in a rough patch, that we could fix it if we tried. But trying requires seeing each other honestly. And Jason? Jason only wanted to see the version of me who didn't ask for more. The version who stayed quiet. Stayed small. Stayed grateful. But I wasn't that woman anymore. And maybe that's what scared him most. Jason came up behind me while I was brushing my teeth. It was a Sunday morning. I had just finished a run and was still flushed from it, still catching my breath in front of the mirror. Sweat clung to my lower back. My reflection looked stronger than I remembered. Not just thinner, solid. Like I belonged in my body again. Then I felt his hands on my hips. A familiar gesture. Comfortable, easy. He pressed his chest to my back and kissed my neck. "You smell like strawberries and hard work," he murmured with a smile in his voice. I smiled out of habit, but I didn't lean into him. Instead, I froze just for a second, but I know he felt it. My body stiffened under his touch, not because I didn't want closeness, but because I didn't know how to trust it anymore. He kept going, undeterred. His hands slid down to the waistband of my leggings, thumb slipping just under the elastic. "God, you look so good lately." There it was again, that thing he thought was a compliment but made me feel like a project. I rinsed my toothbrush and turned toward him. "Thanks," I said. My tone came out flatter than I meant. I tried to recover. "I've been feeling better." He leaned in to kiss me. A real kiss, deeper than the usual drive-by ones we'd gotten used to. And for a second, I kissed him back. My lips moved with his, but something was missing. My chest tightened. His tongue brushed mine, and I felt nothing. No spark. No pull. Just the pressure of his mouth and the strange, aching absence of desire. I pulled back first. Jason looked confused. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," I said, avoiding his eyes. I need to shower." He stepped back, arms falling to his sides. "Lately, it's like I'm not allowed to touch you." "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" His voice was sharp, but not angry, just tired. "Every time I try to show you I care, you shut me down." I wrapped my arms around myself, as if I could hold myself together. "It's not about the touching, Jason. It's about what the touch means." He frowned. "It means I love you." "Does it?" My voice cracked. "Because it feels more like you want to claim me. Like you're proving something, to me, or maybe to yourself." He stepped forward, gentler now. "I miss us, Elise. I miss how we used to be. When we couldn't keep our hands off each other." "I miss that too," I said honestly. "But it's not that simple anymore." He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. His fingertips grazed my cheek. It should have made me melt. But instead, I felt hollow. "Do you still want me?" he asked quietly. The answer was tangled in too many feelings. Of course I did. But I wanted more than just his body. I wanted his attention, his effort, his presence. I didn't answer. He stepped back again, that distance growing thicker between us. "I feel like I'm losing you," he said. Maybe he was. Maybe I was losing him too. Or maybe we were both hanging on to a version of us that no longer existed. That afternoon, I stayed in my room for hours pretending to nap. I scrolled through old photos of us, laughing at a food truck festival, holding hands on a hiking trail. I stared at a video of him dancing in the kitchen while I laughed behind the camera. We had love once. Real, giddy, imperfect love. But now, every time he touched me, I tensed up inside. Every kiss felt loaded. Every hand on my hip made me wonder if he saw me or just missed the convenience of my body before it needed more than just physical touch. Lying in bed that night, I felt him reach for me under the covers. And all I could think was, why does everything have to turn into sex? It was supposed to be a nice dinner. Jason made steak my favorite, though I hadn't eaten red meat in months. I told him that recently. I'd even sent him a reel about my new plant-based obsession, laughing about how I used to drown kale in ranch dressing. He liked the video. Double-tapped it. Said, "You're getting so healthy it's scary." But here it was on the table. Medium rare. Garlic mashed potatoes. Broccoli glistening in olive oil. A Pinterest-perfect plate. He lit a candle. Played soft music. Even wore the cologne I liked. When I sat down, he pulled my chair out like we were in a movie. I wanted to appreciate it. God, I wanted to. "Thought we could celebrate your milestone," he said with a soft smile. 100 pounds gone. You should be proud. I looked down at my plate. My stomach twisted. Something about the way he said it felt hollow. Performed. Like this dinner was more about proving he was the supportive fiancé than really celebrating me. I poked at the steak with my fork. You okay? He asked. Yeah, it's just, I told you I'm not really eating meat lately. He frowned. Babe, it's a special occasion. I know, but I sighed, pushing the broccoli around. You didn't have to make this. He leaned back in his chair, jaw tightening. I was trying to do something nice. And I'm trying to tell you it's not what I wanted. His brow furrowed. Jesus, Elise. Can you just say thank you once in a while? I looked up at him, something snapping loose inside me. Thank you? For what? For pretending to know me. He blinked. What the hell does that mean? It means you don't see me, Jason. You see some before and after picture. You see progress. You see me shrinking. But you don't ask me how I feel. You don't notice that I've been sad for months. I've noticed. You just won't let me in. No, you just touch me and hope it fixes everything. Silence. My voice broke. Do you even like who I am now? Or are you just clinging to the woman who used to let things slide? His eyes narrowed. This isn't fair. I didn't ask you to change. No, I whispered. But now that I have, you don't know what to do with me. He stood up, pacing. This is insane. I make one dinner and suddenly I'm the villain. It's not the steak, Jason. It's everything. It's months of not listening. Of grabbing my ass while I'm washing dishes like it's foreplay. Of only saying, you're beautiful when you want something. You told me you wanted to feel sexy again. I told you I wanted to feel valued. That did it. His mouth opened like he wanted to yell, but nothing came out. He stared at me, shoulders tense, then pushed his chair back with a sharp scrape and walked out of the room. I sat there alone, staring at the untouched plate. And I started to cry. Not quiet tears. Not the kind you can brush off with a napkin and a fake smile. But the ugly kind. The kind where your whole body shakes and you suddenly feel like you've ruined something you can't fix. I had wanted him to understand. To meet me in this new version of myself. But instead, I'd pushed him away. Or maybe I'd just finally said what I'd been biting back for too long. I wiped my face with trembling fingers. The candle flickered in front of me. And I whispered to no one, why did it take me losing 100 pounds to realize I deserve better? Part 5, Reflection and Distance, 600 words, title, I lost 100 pounds and told him I deserve a better man. Now he canceled the wedding out of nowhere. Narrator, Elise, 34 years old, 3 weeks past. The house felt like a hotel room, clean, quiet, impersonal. We still shared a bed, but only out of habit. He slept facing the wall now. And I stopped reaching for him in the dark. Some mornings, I caught him watching me. Not with anger, not even hurt, just confusion. Like he didn't recognize me anymore. And honestly, I didn't recognize myself either. He still made coffee every morning. Still poured mine first. But he stopped asking if I wanted oat milk or almond. Just left it black, like I used to take it before I started caring what I put in my body. I'd sip it anyway. I watched him slip into routines like armor. Gym. Work. Dinner. Dishes. Repeat. He didn't complain. He didn't beg. He didn't touch me. And maybe that's what stung the most. I missed him. Not just his touch, but the way he used to tilt his head when he listened to me. The way he used to laugh too loud at my dumb impressions. The way his fingers used to automatically find mine when we crossed the street. But I also remembered the silence between us during dinners lately. The kisses that felt like punctuation, not connection. The ache in my chest when I tried to tell him I wasn't happy, and he blinked at me like I was speaking another language. One night, I came home late from a yoga class and found him sitting on the back porch, barefoot, hoodie pulled over his head. He looked tired. Older than 36. Like the weight of loving someone who'd changed without warning had worn him thin. I sat next to him in silence, knees touching. He didn't move away. But he didn't turn toward me either. I almost said something. I almost told him I still loved him. That I missed his jokes, his arms around me, the little notes he used to leave in my lunchbox when we were just dating. But I didn't. because the love I missed wasn't this version of us. He sighed quietly. You okay? I nodded, then shook my head. Not really. He didn't answer. We just sat there. I studied the lines of his face in the dim porch light. This man who had held me through my darkest nights, who had seen me cry over stretch marks and cheer over the first 5 pounds lost. He had kissed me when I was breathless and sweating from a workout, told me I was beautiful when I didn't believe it. He wasn't the enemy. But we weren't in sync anymore. Maybe love wasn't just about holding on. Maybe it was about recognizing when the versions of ourselves we fell in love with no longer fit. Back inside, I crawled into bed and stared at the ceiling. He turned off the light and climbed in next to me, careful not to brush against me. And that's when I knew. It wasn't that we didn't love each other. It was that we didn't know how to love this version of each other. I turned my face toward the wall and whispered so quietly I didn't think he heard, I don't know how to fix this. He didn't answer. But I saw the tension in his back, the rise and fall of a deep, held breath. I stayed awake for a long time after that. In the morning, I started packing a small overnight bag. Not because I was done forever, but because I needed space to feel the silence on my own terms, to figure out if I wanted to keep trying or finally let go. And as I zipped the bag shut, my heart whispered the question I'd been too afraid to ask. Do I still want to marry this man? Or do I just miss who he used to be? The morning I came back home, I expected the silence to feel heavier. I'd only been gone 2 days, crashing at my friend Nadine's guest room. Long enough to stare at my own face in the mirror and wonder what I was fighting for. Long enough to remember that self-respect and love weren't supposed to cancel each other out. When I unlocked the front door, I found the living room spotless, his gym bag by the door, the faint smell of lemon cleaner in the air. His keys were gone. He didn't text. He didn't ask when I'd be back. I thought maybe that would devastate me. Instead, it clarified everything. We were both waiting for the other person to break the silence, to fight. But maybe that was the problem. We'd both already stopped fighting. We were just managing the slow fade. That night, he came home late. Still in scrubs. Looking exhausted. I was sitting on the couch, knees pulled to my chest, wrapped in my favorite hoodie. He paused when he saw me like I was someone he didn't expect to find in his house anymore. Hey, he said, quietly. I nodded. Hey. He set his things down and stood there for a second, like he didn't know what to do next. Then, finally, he sat on the other end of the couch. Not close, but not far. The distance between us felt like a decision we were both making, mutual and sad. I've been thinking, I started, staring down at my chipped nail polish, and I don't think this is working anymore. He didn't speak. His jaw twitched. I've changed. I know that. But I also know I didn't expect everything else to feel so different. Like we were only okay as long as I stayed the same. That's not fair, he said, voice low. Maybe not. But it feels true. He leaned forward, rubbing his palms together. You think I wanted this? I proposed because I loved you. I still do. But I don't know how to reach you anymore. I felt tears sting my eyes. I know. He looked over at me. And when you said you deserve a better man, it was like someone ripped the floor out from under me. I thought I was that man. I swallowed hard. So did I. But I don't think we see each other clearly anymore. And that's no one's fault. It just happened. A long silence followed. Not angry, just full of grief. Then, softly, he said, I canceled the wedding. I nodded. I figured. I didn't want to blindside you. It's okay, I whispered. It felt like the right thing. He looked like he wanted to reach out, his fingers twitching on his knee, but he didn't. Instead, after a pause, he stood up, walked behind the couch, and, gently, placed a kiss on the top of my head. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't an invitation. It was a goodbye disguised as love. I closed my eyes. And in that moment, I felt everything. The years we'd spent together, the laughs, the loyalty, The ache of losing something we'd both tried to hold on to even as it slipped between our fingers. He went to the bedroom and closed the door. I stayed on the couch, curled up in the hoodie that still smelled like him. And as the silence wrapped around me again, I finally understood. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do with love is let it go before it turns into resentment. You think when your life changes, when you finally do the hard thing, like losing 100 pounds, that everything else will follow. That you'll be happy, sexy, confident, wanted. That the hard work outside will magically fix everything inside. But what nobody tells you is that change isn't just physical. It shifts the ground beneath your relationships. It tests who gets to walk beside you and who only knew how to love the version of you that stayed small and quiet and grateful. When I lost the weight, I thought I was gaining freedom. But what I really gained was clarity. I started noticing how many of our moments were filled with assumptions. How much of our love was built on what used to be, how I used to lean on him, need him, let him lead. And how slowly, without even meaning to, he stopped seeing me as his equal and started seeing me as someone slipping away. And maybe I was. I don't think he meant to make me feel small. I think he thought he was loving me the best way he knew how, through touch, through routine, through quiet loyalty. But I needed more. I needed to feel seen, not just held. Desired, not just touched. We were both speaking different languages by the end. He kissed me the same way he always had, but I felt nothing. And then I hated myself for that. I hated that I couldn't feel the love I knew was still there. But now I know. Love can exist and still not be enough. You can love someone with your whole chest and still feel lonely in the same room with them. You can want things to work and still realize the version of yourself that fit perfectly into their arms doesn't exist anymore. That doesn't make either of you bad people. It just makes you human. I spent weeks after he left wondering if I had ruined everything. If I had asked for too much, if I deserved better was the wrong thing to say. But I've come to believe it wasn't about deserving better. It was about deserving differently. I deserved emotional intimacy before physical affection. I deserved to be asked how I was feeling before he reached for my waist in the kitchen. I deserved to grow without being made to feel like I was leaving someone behind. And so did he. He deserved someone who didn't flinch when he touched her, who didn't overthink every kiss or feel resentful when he tried to love her the only way he knew how. He deserved to be loved for who he was, not for who I hoped he could become if he just got it. We were both trying. But trying isn't always enough when the people you've become are no longer reaching for the same future. So no, we're not getting married. The dress is still hanging in the back of my closet. I haven't decided what to do with it yet. Maybe I'll sell it. Maybe I'll keep it. Not because I'm holding on, but because it's a reminder of who I used to be and how far I've come. If I've learned anything from all this, it's that love should never require you to shrink, emotionally, physically, spiritually. The right love expands you, challenges you, sees you clearly. And if you have to lose yourself to keep someone, that's not love. That's fear in a nice suit. And I'm not afraid anymore.